You like it? Okay. Go ahead and get started. All right, I'll call to order the August 13th, 2024 regular meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission statement is Learning for Life. Vision statement, Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. Brings us to the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We have an agenda. We have no presentations. We took it easy on us, our first meeting back. Citizens' comments. Anybody who would like to address the board this evening? All right, seeing none, go ahead and close the public comment. Brings us to G, which is the consent agenda. Consists of minutes from the June 25th, 2024 regular meeting, HR update, June 2024 disbursements, July 2024 disbursements. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, I got a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support by Ms. Angel. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Brings us to our action agenda. Number 1 is the approval of the tentative agreement with SAEA.
Yes, I'm pleased to announce that after several months of negotiation, we've reached an agreement with the SAEA unit. That's our adult education and alternative education teachers. And we had an opportunity to share that with all of you, and we'd like to go ahead and ask you to approve that. They have ratified this agreement as well, and so it's just subject to your approval at this time.
Okay. Any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table and entertain a motion on action item number 1.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the tentative agreement with SAEA as presented.
Okay, I got a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Action item number 2 is the approval of the policy package 24-3.
Yes, over the past several months, we've had a committee together working on several items related to policy, very specifically related to the media selection policy. That committee has had administrators as well as teachers on that committee. And we have some supporting policy language recommendations that will allow that policy to have full effect with the board's approval. This went for a first read to you in July and is now before you for a final approval.
Are there any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table and entertain a motion on action item number 2.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the policy package 24-3 as presented.
Yeah, motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support. Support by Ms. Angel. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Action item number 3, approval of the 24-25 Anderson Student Handbook.
Yes, annually, we ask the Board of Education to approve changes that come through our handbooks that touch significant policy, have policy implications, major practice changes, for instance, related to curriculum or curricular practices, instructional practices. In this particular revision to the Anderson Student Handbook, we have several major changes in that document. The first is that we have exchanged the Anderson Code of Conduct that was in that document for the district Code of Conduct. That district Code of Conduct has been approved for many years and was vetted through legal. And at this point, we feel that it's not good practice to have two different codes of conduct, one for the district and one for the school at large. So the high school is exchanging theirs for the district's, which I think is very appropriate. Exam waivers. This particular change will also impact whether or not exam waivers are available for students starting with the class of 2028. And in this case, it would make that no longer a practice at the high school. Between now and then, classes of 2027, 26, and 25 will have exam waivers, but the qualifying grade to be eligible for that will move from that C level to an A minus. In a corresponding policy change, the grade rubric is changing so that an A minus is now an 89.5 or above, and that aligns with kind of the bands that are typical for grades that are letter grades. So A would be 90 to 100, B is 80 to 89, and C is 70 to 79, D is 60 to 69, and then A minus, or the minus and the pluses are carved out within those bands. So that is a change that's also happening. Finally, there was a practice in the handbook where it said that 50% was the lowest grade that a student may receive, and that is going to be eliminated. So we do believe that this is a set of changes that are adding to our commitment to changing our expectations and the rigor associated with performance standards that we give to students. So we do think that that is aligned to that direction all around. So this was presented to the board as a first read in July and is now before the board for final approval. And we have Ms. Randall here if there are any questions.
Any questions for staff? Dr. Marponia?
So in the committee, I mentioned the dress code, and I thought it was going to be put in there because the only thing we had in there was homecoming prom dress code. I know we had it there before, but I didn't see it there in the policy.
So we did talk about the fact that the code of conduct allows us to set out dress codes. I don't know if Ms. Randall has the high school had any conversation about dress code as general parameters? Okay. So that's something that, this handbook is always a living document, so we can go back and address the specificity with the dress code. So that it's already available to the high school to set out what those expectations are and whether or not those are outlined in the document itself. They can go back and.
I know that several years ago that the board was very clear on how they wanted the dress code or have the dress code, what it had in it, what it did and didn't have in it. So not being able to review it over, the years, taking a look at this and comparing to the fact that we do have a prom dress code. I know it's open to interpretation for, what kind of dress that there is, but I thought it was relevant to have a dress code in a handbook for the district and for the high school, middle school in particular. But then why do we have the prom dress code? Because I think it's important to have a dress code in there. I mean, I know it's.
Page 26, part of the district board conduct, which we included, it says dress. It's not very specific or items aren't listed.
Page 26. Oh, I don't, it's all,
One as well.
okay.
Top of 21, there's a. That's the
Students.
district.
Okay, so that's being removed in the district policy then.
It's,
Right.
the district policy is substituting the ones that's there. So on page 26, number 13, it says a student shall not dress or groom in a manner which in the judgment of a building administrator is unsafe to the student or others or disruptive to the educational process.
Perfect. No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I just thought that when I brought it up, that was, we didn't even see that, so
Right.
that's fine. That's good. And then just a quick question. Did we go through and eliminate anything that says zero tolerance in the policies because of the change? For disciplinary, probably, just,
So when we had policy changes that happened, that came through this board, that would have gone right into the district one.
okay, and that was through the legal.
Right.
Okay, okay.
So this is just replacing it with what the board had approved at another time.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you. That's good.
Mr. Green?
Forgive me, I missed the July meeting. Can somebody, either Ms. Randall or Dr. Irvine, what was the thought process or the reasoning about grandfathering in the exam exemptions to the freshman class?
The upperclassmen,
Well, we're starting with the freshmen, right? So sophomore, junior, senior still have the option. Now, I'm gonna go on record, if you don't know, I've said this before, I'm against exemptions. Much to the hatred of my daughter on this one, because she's gonna be a junior, that said, Dad, shut your mouth. To me, as an educator, you're gonna have to take exams in college, and I understand everybody doesn't go to college, but a lot of them do. And we're giving them, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, you're giving them an out, not giving them a final exam. They have to learn how to take tests. So I guess I'm curious of how that process went.
discussion with our school improvement team, and our which includes students and then select few number of parents, discussion on that. And the incentive, to be honest, they like the incentive, getting an A in the class. And I don't know if you know all the restrictions, but it's like less than 3 absences, less than 6 tardies, no suspensions. So it's a pretty high standard of for the exam waiver. I do think the grade was too low. I do think it was worth the thought of phasing it out rather than just now you don't have it anymore. And the other piece of it is that all AP classes do require an exam. So those are the college, for sure those kids who typically those are the kids that are set to go to a university or college. I guess just an easier transition to phase it out rather than just we're eliminating all of them. Something that, senior year, you might have had some kids that never had to take exams and they'll be taking their senior year, their first exams, and I think that might be a little bit of a shock also.
We're gonna have to do it as a freshman in college. I mean, I'll support this, but I'll be honest, I don't like it, but I'm not gonna make it a big stink. Thank you for answering the question.
I'll kind of partner with Mr. Green on that. It was sold to us as one thing and then used as another. That what we were told was exam waivers were going to be where they didn't count. Kids were still encouraged to take them. They were still encouraged to do them, but they wouldn't count against you if you did really poorly on it. Well, then it turned into free half day for everybody. Let's get out of here. And if you were qualified to take it, there were teachers who wouldn't even let you because you're messing up my free half day. So it was sold as one thing. It was kind of turned into something else. I realized they're phasing it out. And I mean, this is a pretty stringent, you got to have an A- in the class. So yeah. But the original sell was you'll take it. It just won't count against you if you do really poorly on it if you've done this. And that quickly faded away.
We're changing it to qualify, you still have to come and take it, but it can't hurt your grade.
Right, that's how it was sold.
But then we realized that the integrity of the exam period might hurt some of those kids who do have to take it to pass the class, where you have some kids that are.
Don't care. Yeah, can't lose here.
Right.
Well, again, it was supposed to be able to help your grade if you did well on it, but didn't hurt your grade if you didn't. And it just, I know it went sideways from there into something else, but I understand Mr. Green's point.
It was also sold as an incentive to come to school every day if you don't have any absences. And then what a lot of children did was they used those 3 days to, at the end, 3 days, and then you got like 6 days off. So,
Yeah.
which they found the loopholes really quickly.
Oh,
but
yeah, that's you build a system and they will,
Yes.
Parents pay attention to when they're absent, because
yeah.
we also have a time period that you can only excuse absences, so, I mean, we'll see what it does to attendance, but I feel like that's gonna be the biggest harm in it, is that kids won't care about their attendance.
Well, I do think that if there's a population of kids who have been extrinsically rewarded for an intrinsic responsibility, when you take away that extrinsic reward, there's almost a counter kind of psychological moment where they say, well, if you're not going to give me an exam waiver, then I won't even want to go to school. You know, there's just kind of this extreme that happens. So I think there was some thought that if you start with a class who never experienced it from the start, then we can start fresh with this isn't a right that you have kind of absorbed and believed was yours for a long time. So removing it may not have the same effect. I think that may have been some of the thinking.
Science requirements, there's just a lot that's gonna happen to these freshmen. I think it's just a nice base to move forward. And, you know, it doesn't mean that next year we can't remove them for the other classes if we're seeing, responsibility in it.
All about managing expectations, right? Any further discussion on this with staff?
Yeah, I have a question or two. I think I've got the right pages referenced here. On 3A, where it describes the student's role in the handbook and their responsibility for that, I think the first statement says, the student has to recognize that they're responsible for learning, and they recognize that it's a process. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that's the heart and soul of it. I don't know why this irritates me, but it does. It's probably not a big deal, but I can't imagine a student saying, yes, I'll be responsible for learning, and I understand this is a process. Like, what kid's going to say that? I don't get why it's there, and I don't know what impact it's going to have on a kid. Why would the kid's going to go, who cares? I know it's not a big deal. It's just the way that language is. So if it doesn't irritate anyone else, then we shouldn't mess with it. But do you see what I'm referencing? I think it's 3A. Yeah, I mean, what doesn't need to mean anything to me, but if the kid's going to be responsible for it, then it should be meaningful to them. And maybe someone had a great idea, but it's not evident what that means. You may not change it, you may, but I had to say something that just irritated me. And then on page 7, actually page 6 at the bottom, the paragraph begins with 4 students. Not 4, number 4, but 4 students in grade 6 and above, in addition to the suspension and expulsion of students who commit violations identified in blah, blah, blah. Michigan law requires a school district to remove a student who possesses a dangerous weapon, unless that student meets one of 4 exceptions, and it says in parentheses listed below. I just couldn't find where that list was. You know, can you point it to me? If not,
The exceptions they're actually codified in state law. In MCL, it's 380, 1311 is where you will find that list. But you're saying that our handbook now does not
I just couldn't
include that
find
list?
it. It doesn't mean that's not there. I thought it said listed below, and it's not right in the subsequent paragraph. And so anyway, just FYI.
Okay.
I'm sure that at some point it might end up rearing its ugly head. But that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table and entertain a motion on action item number 3.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 24-25 Anderson Student Handbook as presented.
Okay, a motion by Dr. Pomponio, is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Lamos. Any discussion? Any further discussion? I should say.
biting my tongue.
All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Action item number 4 is the approval of the Anderson Track and Tennis Court project. I see Mr. Kent here. Assume he's presenting.
Good evening. Gary County Plant Moran Real Point, along with Jason Hardy from Southgate Community Schools, here to present the award recommendation for the Anderson Track and Tennis Court project. This project's mutual efforts between Plant Moran Real Point, the Southgate Community Schools Administration, to present the framework in order to identify and evaluate contractors for this project. The nature of this project is with all the renovations that are going on around Anderson High School, the two areas that we wanted to focus on were obviously the track and the tennis courts. They were done not so long ago, I would say about 10 years for the tennis courts. Structurally, both are in still great matter. The subsurface is great. It's just the surface of both areas is starting to wear. We want to extend the lifetime of the product so that the district gets better value for their dollars spent. The tennis courts themselves starting to have a little speckling on the top. The nature of this project is essentially applying coating on top of it, which would encapsulate the existing surface, would do lines, and it really would extend the lifetime of this product. The track itself, again, the subsurface is in great shape. The surface itself, where the lines are, everything can be seen, starting to crack. So we would essentially remove that existing surface and apply a new surface on top of it. The new Michigan High School MHSAA guidelines, there's new lines that go along with it, so we make sure that we're adhering to all those requirements as well. It'd also be the infield that would be replaced as well. The background of this project: on June 26th, we issued a formal RFP, made it public, posted on the state website along with the local newspaper, and on July 17th, we received sealed bid proposals from 3 different contractors. The district and Plant Moran Real Point conducted post-bid interviews, reviewed schedules. The schedules for both of them, the track itself will take about 3 weeks from start to finish, including lead time for materials. The tennis courts will take about 2 weeks, 1 week for lead time, and then 1 week to perform the work. There's also alternate schedules if we want to do just 4 courts at a time or do all 8. But after conducting those post-bid interviews, the district and the project team are recommending the engagement of laser sports surfacing for the tennis courts and Goddard coatings for the Anderson track and infield. The total cost for this project would be $221,484.33. Of this, it'd be a contract award amount to laser sports surfacing for $87,400. Contract award amount to Goddard coatings for $113,892.33. And then a project contingency amount for $20,192 for any unforeseen items. Again, that contingency amount will be returned to the district if it is unused, and be returned to the overall bond contingency. And on the following page, you'll see a breakdown of costs. Laser sports surfacing, Goddard coatings, and Star Track were the 3 proposals that we received for all of this work. Mason?
Questions? Any questions for Mr. Kent or staff? Dr. McCoy.
So the 221,044, that's with everything, with the contingency?
Correct.
Okay.
And to just clarify, we can do the track and the tennis court separately, and they're giving us a schedule, so they will work around our schedule. So we want to do one, because football season's coming up. So we might have to do some of this in the spring. So they're willing to work with us to get this project done when we say, please fit us in this time frame for track and or tennis, or both at the same time, whatever we decide.
Okay, thank you.
Does this take care of the low spot in the tennis court where we're holding some water?
So what they're going to do is they're going to patch it with,
Fiber mesh membrane type.
fiber mesh, and the bird baths as well. They'll fill the bird baths in. That's the low spots. They put on, it's not Kills, but similar to a Kills paint, and they put a primer on it that won't let the rust spots bleed back through. Eventually it's not a forever fix, but it's going to calm them down. They'll repaint the surface, whatever color we pick, and then reline the surfaces as well for the tennis.
I just know on the back when it rains, 2 days later, it's holding water back there.
That's one thing we brought up, and they said that the product they're using is a self-leveling type product, so it would infill.
Oh, it'll fill that in?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Okay,
So it'll be thicker in that spot, making it more level and not so many bird bass on the surface.
excellent.
I do have one. How many more years or what, we expected to extend the life of it? What is that?
When the contractors came out on the tennis courts, they said, boy, these are great condition except for the rust. I mean, we've seen a lot worse of cracking, and now with the mesh, they're gonna repair those cracks, and they're guaranteed not to open back up. Not to say they won't continue somewhere else, but the mesh is gonna bind them together so it doesn't crack in the same spot over and over again. They're saying 5, 6 years with this, and then we may want to look at, do we re-mill and resurface? So it'll get us, say, 5 to 8 out of it, depending on.
Typically, right now, the cost for an entire mill and resurface per court, we have is about 100 plus thousand, I would say, for total replacement. So you're getting a lot more value. The courts, like Mr. Hardy mentioned, are in great shape. This would just buy the district more time until we really need to replace them.
I've had people ask me, why do you let them put fireworks out there? Like, there's no fireworks out there. That's just rust coming through, and it's
Yeah, they actually changed the sub base now, so it's iron ore in the base that's
Right.
coming up through, and now there's a new spec. So when you do a new court, that spec no longer exists because of so many problems across
Yeah.
all the courts, not just ours.
yeah, I've seen it at other places too.
Yeah.
At one point.
So are we gonna do the logo or Southgate on the surface, or that's not gonna happen?
That wasn't included in the proposal, but we do, if you'd like to see some options, we have some contingency.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Is that something that is just part of the paint scheme? So it's not actually a material adjustment?
It'd just be like lining the courts, so they paint a different color and it'd just be a paint scheme, so we can entertain the idea.
We do that?
if
I'd
you'd
like to see the
Well,
more,
you know I'm all about the branding.
oh, yeah, that's why, yeah, definitely.
I am all about the
I'm still waiting
branding.
for big, yeah.
We can, if we can investigate some of those options. Obviously, this project is going to not happen right away. We have a season, both football season, to prevent the track from really being resurfaced at this moment, as well as a tennis season. So that will give us some time to go back and take a look at how, because I know you've been talking about
Oh,
that
yeah.
from the time that it started. So that's a good catch.
Thank you, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table. Entertain a motion on action item number 4.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Anderson Track and Tennis Court project as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support?
Mr. Lamas? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Action item number 5 is the approval of the Anderson paving project.
The next award recommendation we're bringing is for additional funding for the current summer renovations that are happening at Anderson High School and Davidson Middle School. Again, this is an effort on behalf of Plant Run Real Point, the Southgate Community Schools Administration, TMP Architects, and Granger Construction. Back in January of this year, we came to the board and the board approved an amount of $6,536,530 for hard construction. We had a contingency amount of $653,653. In February of '24, we came and presented the second bid package, which is for all the civil work, as well as Granger CM fees, costs, and contingency. Those two amounts were $750,000 for the civil work and $1,146,338 for CM fees, costs, and CM contingency. To date, we haven't spent all of the contingency that was originally approved. However, throughout the nature of the project, there's a lot of construction going on, and we were able to get pricing for milling and paving the parking lots that are surrounding the field house. They were in the strategic plan to be done further down the road, I believe, with the facility addition assessments completed last year. However, with contractors already on site, we got competitive pricing, and the pricing was good. Again, we still have contingency amount that's left over from the original bid package, but We don't know what's still left to come. You know, the project's still a little bit ways to go with both the Davidson and Anderson Auditorium, and the field house is wrapping up here this month. So we're requesting just to increase the current project amount by the $285,543 to complete all this work. And then at the end of the project, we would close out the contingency and return any unused dollars to bond program. On the next page of the award recommendation, you'll see that breakdown of the project cost summary. The total new project cost for this summer's renovations would be increased to $9,372,364, which would increase Ranger's GMP by $285,543. This price is for the worst case scenario if we were to wait to do it all till spring. Some of that work we're hoping to expedite here this fall while we're wrapping up the field house renovation, so that that whole area would be nice and brand new for the grand opening. The following pages, you'll see the proposal from Nagel Construction and the award recommendation from Ranger Construction, breaking down their prices and what's included in that. So Ranger CM fees, cost, bonding, and insurance also included in that. The work would be completed this summer and fall. That amount would be lowered to $259,584. But if we were to wait until spring to complete all the work, it would be for the full $285,543. We did evaluate the numbers that were provided by Nagel Paving. They are competitive with what you would find in the market if it were publicly bid, and we're comfortable with what the proposal came in at. Last page of the award recommendation, you'll actually see a breakdown or a diagram of the parking lots that would be renovated. Item number one is the parking lot that's just outside of the field house to the north. Item number 1A is that drive that comes in along McCann. And then the entire west parking lot leading over towards the athletic entrance would also be built and paved. Thinking that whole area by the baseball fields that are being renovated as we speak, all brand new. So it'll be a really good looking athletic complex when it's all set.
Did we not include the Allen parking lot in this? Because we are using the Allen parking lot for quite a bit of the transport of material for the baseball and softball.
Look at the proposal. Let me see.
Okay. We are going to then come back to you also for the Allen. So all of these areas are getting quite a bit of abuse with major truckloads of material that's being carried in and out from those fields and from the field house area. And they're using Allen's parking lot, they're using the athletic parking lot, they're using the field house. They're not using the band one. The band one we're keeping set, we're going to repaint. But each one of these parking lots and areas, we're going to, over the course of the year, as projects come to a close where we're not going to be using that particular parking lot for that reason, we want to kind of follow up with a refinish for that area. And then, but we want to wait until those projects are done. We certainly don't want to do it before, another big project's about to happen. So that you will then find a separate one for Allen coming up as well, but we know that's an area that needs to be redone.
I know, I heard you mention that before, so I was expecting that too.
Yeah. Our contingency too, though, one reason why we're not asking them to cover it with contingency is we also have another plan for some of that contingency money, which is to replace the outfield fencing for the softball and the baseball. Because every time we start a project of renovating, we notice what else probably could use some renovating. And many of those posts are rusted out, gates are rusted out. And so we're going to take this opportunity also to refresh that so that the life for those particular structural pieces then gets a good, 15, 20-year boost where we don't have to do that again for quite a while. Otherwise, if we don't do it now, what it takes to come in and disrupt some of the work that's here to get that done would be, I think costs would escalate pretty considerably for it if we were doing it in isolation. So that is one reason why we're using, what some of the intent is to use some of that contingency money that's there right now for the project.
Questions, maximum point.
So for this scope of work that you want to do for Anderson, is that already scheduled to be done later? But it's just, you want to do it earlier for the cost?
It wasn't originally scheduled. It was noted in the facility condition assessment that it's an area that will need to be done sooner than later, just based
Okay.
off the lifespan of when it was done originally.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the opportunist cost you got because we're already there. So the 259 is that price, is that opportunistic price?
Correct. Yep, since they're already.
We do it
done.
now, while they're there, they're willing to do it, but for more if we wait till the spring.
Right, just based off the escalation for material costs, they don't know what it's gonna be.
Right.
So they're estimating this amount.
And the remobilization fee, because they're already out doing some paving around the field house, at this time, so.
So are the chances we get it done now good or what?
The goal is to try to get the item number one, the whole parking lot in front of the field house done. And then leave the main drive and the staff lot until baseball, softball. There's not so many trucks coming across that because we don't want to put it in that it just tear it up. So that would maybe be pushed to more of a spring depending on schedule, but they're moving pretty fast on baseball, softball, currently, for that project.
So part of the 259 may be spent now and then some. But if we nail the deal down for 259, we get that pricing now irrespective of when it's done? Or am I misunderstanding?
So if the work is done this summer, fall while the crew's already out there, it'd be for 259. And if it's done in the spring, it'd be for the 285. However, some of it would be lower if we do it now. So if we do item number one, like Mr. Hardy was mentioning, we would get the lower price for that amount. And then if we waited to do that until spring, it would go up. But for the 47,650, we would get that price for right now.
Okay.
It'd be locked in.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table, entertain a motion on action item number 5.
President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Anderson paving project as presented.
We have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support. Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, action item number 6, approval of the 2024 playground EWF mulch resurface and garish courtyard mulch.
Yes, let me start by saying we did the playgrounds 2 years ago. So now it's been 2 years since we've added to all the playgrounds, and this is what I'm bringing forth tonight. And also, if you haven't seen the garish courtyard, we did some removal of the pond and weeds and the greenhouse, and we want to make it nice, kind of like Davidson, and put some
Yeah.
picnic tables and some stuff in there. So the playground mulch has to be added to existing playgrounds at Allen, Ford Line, Grogan, North Point, and Shelters to meet the regulatory safe fall protection requirements. Superior Ground Cover has looked at these, determined how much mulch will need to be added within the fall protection. They're going to install the certified playground engineered wood fiber EWF mulch, which consists of hard and soft woods that have been ground to a fibrous texture, smaller than wood chips. It's what you have to put at playgrounds. You can't just go to Lowe's and buy mulch and add it to the playgrounds. It's not, it doesn't have a fall protection. So. Safety, it's very safe. Longevity, 2 to 3 years. We got 2 years out of it. Since last time we did it, it's going to be brighter when you first put it in, and it's going to, dull in color over time. But Superior Grounds Cover price includes material delivery installation with no additional fuel or service charges at $21,117.50. It's our recommendation the board approve this proposal to meet the regulatory safe fall protection requirements. Attached is their individual quotes for everything behind here. They came out and measured the depth of all the mulch. They're not all the same depth. Questions? Yes.
So is there any other options that you have to, maybe, I don't know about the cost, but that's, has more longevity, or is it comparable, or is it just this is one of,
Other than
What they all-
going with like a rubberized surface, this is what you have to put in for the ADA requirements and the fall protection. So if we stay with the mulch, this is the mulch that needs to be used on the playgrounds. Even a rubberized mulch is not, it doesn't fall under those regulations.
oh,
Fall
okay,
protection,
okay. So this is basically the only thing that's out there that's ADA compliant and,
yes,
okay, thank you.
Unless we went with a mat.
right.
Oh,
So
okay.
there are
Right.
some play areas that will choose rubber matting as opposed to a chip base. That's much more expensive. The
Okay.
cost for maintaining it is much higher. They don't last as long.
Okay.
It's a
That
poured rubber
answers.
surface, and it'd be the same thing like your parking lots as it cracks, you'd have to fill them, and then you'd have to resurface and recolor them, kind of like your track. So
Yeah.
it's a whole different cost and structure to maintain.
That's fine, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table. Entertain a motion on action item number 6.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2024 playground engineered wood fiber mulch resurface and garish courtyard mulch as presented.
We have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support by Ms. Angel. Any discussion?
Just one quick check. That's going to be included in our planning, our operations and maintenance planning that we just went through. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call up the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Action item number 7, approval of the shelters preschool Lower L elementary, or I'm sorry, Lower L playground additions.
I'm going to jump in and start on this one. This district has been working with the Office of Civil Rights to make sure that all of our special education playground options are up to code, that are compliant with ADA regulations and recommendations, not just regulations. So we do have an agreement with OCR to take a look at all of our access points, make sure that all of our playgrounds are accessible, and that we have additional ground level components for students who might be in wheelchairs or who have other physical restraints that we need play surfaces and stations that will respond to them. So our current playground at shelters is in need of some additional structure, additional play stations, and so it was originally constructed by Mid-States. So they have an addition that they can provide us that will expand that playground area. And we really do feel like children in that area are kind of bored. There's not enough to be doing in that area. So we are adding quite a bit through this particular recommendation. We are a little restricted by the fact that we don't want to take out something that we just had put in. So we want to work with Mid-States to do that as opposed to removing and replacing with another company. So you'll find us pretty attached to Mid-States on this one. So I wanted to set that stage before Jason talks a little bit about the details of this.
Doesn't it cost a little bit more if another company goes and has to?
They will, yeah, they will. We do have several different recommendations that will be coming over the next month or two for each of the schools. Some of them will be just adding components in a play area that are ground components. They might be standalone. They may not be actually attached to the play surface itself or the main structure. And then some will come in with a whole, we need a structure. Allen needs a structure. It hasn't had one for lower elementary, but we're going to wait and get our big one in because we're also getting a big playground. So we're going to get that in before we tackle that. We're going to update some other schools first. North Point's going to get some ground level surfaces. They're not going to get a new playground. They have a new one. It's pretty significant, but there are some ground level pieces that we're going to add. We did, in developing this plan, we used our occupational therapist and behavioral TC, teacher consultant, to help us with these plans to say what would be engaging play structure and additions to these playgrounds. So the recommendations that we've worked with these play companies for have been with people who have that eye and that expertise. We also have had parents of students that have these physical needs weigh in. So we had a meeting and said, here's some of the things they're thinking. They gave us some suggestions as well. So when we're bringing these forward, they're pretty deep in some intentionality and thought behind them. So it's not just what looks nice. It is really a deeper level.
I have one more question. So the entrances by the gates where you go in being ADA compliant, is there like a walkway, sidewalk that the wheelchairs can get through to have access to that?
In some places, we're adding access points.
Okay.
That's a separate bit of concrete work or asphalt work.
Okay.
So they're not represented in this particular recommendation.
Okay.
The borders are changing on these playgrounds, so we want to get the borders there, and they'll include a ramp, and then we want to add sidewalk to the ramp for
Okay.
access. So we want to get the borders assigned and the new playground footprint, and then
Good.
add the concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
These are very visible additions we're making. What you aren't seeing and don't actually come to the level of requirement for approval by the board are some internal classroom stuff we're adding to, calming lofts that we're adding, swings that we're adding inside classrooms to give a richer experience for kids in the classroom as well, that have special needs. You're not necessarily going to see them because they don't meet that requirement price-wise, but I just wanted to alert the general public as well that we're thinking about what's happening inside.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Preschool playground and shelters in need of updates. Mid-States Rec is adding on to the structure for $40,553. Great Lakes Rec is going to include the ground level components and additional standalone components for $29,832. I want to point out a couple things. They've included mulch in this proposal. I'm not double dipping, so we looked at that and they're giving us new mulch, and this is for what they're not touching. What I brought you before, okay? I also have 2 pages of warranties for each of the playgrounds. Just real quick, there's limited 5-year, 8-year, 10-year, and 15-year warranties depending on the items in the structure. And again, 1 for each company, 2 pages of warranties. This all went through the Sourcewell Consortium discount, so there's a discount from Sourcewell for all the equipment. So we request that the board approve the total purchase in the amount of $77,423 for Mid-States Rec, Great Lakes Rec, and a contingency of $7,038. Any other questions on this?
I mean, this is probably, so you have the manufacturer's warranty. Do we ever buy extended warranties? Like, do they give us a discounted rate if there's like an extension?
Good question. I've never bought an extended warranty on, but let me look into that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, there's a discount.
Any other questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll bring the discussion back to the table, entertain a motion on action item number 7.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the shelters, preschool, or L playground additions as presented.
Okay, motion by Dr. Pomponio, is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Action item number 8, well, we are paying for being off, aren't we? All right, approval of the Grogan Preschool ORL Playground. I imagine this is a similar,
Yeah.
Yes, it is similar.
all right.
Not as much.
Anything you want to add about this one, different to the other? Or?
Well, this one is, we're removing that entire structure and getting all new structure, and all these new components are built into it.
Sure.
So they're not add-ons.
Okay,
But that lower elementary preschool playground was not replaced back in 2021. We repaired it. So now we're replacing it. So it's all going to be a new structure. But we're also going to be repairing that play pad back there, which is crumbling, and then the access to the asphalt. That's going to come before you at the next board meeting.
Police school playground at Grogan is in need of being updated. Make sure that it was able to meet the needs of all of our students. Great Lake Rec and Mid-States Rec both gave us a price for the playground. Great Lakes Rec, $31,136. Their warranty is based on the equipment listed below. 15-year, 10-year, 8-year, and 5-year warranties, depending on the items. Mid-States Rec was higher than Great Lakes Rec. They were $50,085. Great Lakes Rec included the ground level components and standalone components in the structure. So it's our recommendation to purchase Grogan's new police school playground equipment for Great Lakes Rec. So we request the board approve the purchase in the amount of $34,236. And that includes $3,100 in contingency. Yes.
So it's cheaper? Is it a smaller area? Because it's a lot cheaper than the.
No, it's a comparable area. I think what we're dealing with on the other one is a combination of two companies, one that's adding to the structure, making that larger. There's a lot more lower L special education classrooms at shelters than there are others, so that is going to be a larger play area ultimately.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that might be what you're asking, and just a
Yeah,
long way of
just the
explaining that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, bring the discussion back to the table. Entertain a motion on action item number 8.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Grogan Preschool Lower L Playground as presented.
Okay, motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Brings us to the last item on the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Green.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Green. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.